Okay, everyone. Well, welcome to tonight's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. This webinar is titled, What I've Learned the Past Year About Weight Loss. As many of you know, or maybe some of you do not know, we started a weight loss program back in October of last year. And I've done weight loss systems before. Basically, I focused on just helping people to eat better, exercise, that type of thing. And I'll say we had a few people that had good results, and we also had our fair share of people where there was absolutely no changes. And so it was pretty interesting whenever I got into this new system that we're going to talk about today, which is called the Dream Drops Weight Loss System. When we first started, there was a lot of people that were skeptical. I'm going to tell you, I was super skeptical whenever we started it, and my wife is actually the first individual to ever go through this program. She was trying to take off some baby weight. And we eat very healthy in our house. She exercises like crazy, and she had been doing that for several months, and she just wasn't able to lose weight. And we went to a continuing education seminar. We learned about this program. This doctor started showing us a couple of pictures of before and afters of people that were losing weight. And it just blew my mind. And so, again, I was skeptical. Amanda, my wife, she said she wanted to do it. She got on the program and immediately started losing weight. And this is where we're at. So basically this is what kind of brought it all up, because my wife decided to do it and she wouldn't listen to the doctor, which happens quite a bit. And so we got here. And I'll say that we've had hundreds of people go through the program. We average about 18 inches loss, 18 total body inches. The pounds of fat is really the biggest thing that we focus on. It's not just weight, but people literally lose visceral fat, which is the bad fat that's in your body. People lose when we do the body composition exams in our office, you can see that people are losing fat, maintaining or even building muscle. And yes, the weight will come down, but it's more focused on fat. So I just want to talk a little bit about what I've learned over the last year since we've been doing this program. And I am going to cover a little bit of nutrition as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I do want to say that for those of you who don't know me personally, I'm Dr. Daniel Gonzalez. That's my picture off down to the bottom right. Feel free to text me, and when you do text me, put your name in there so I know who you are, but that's my personal number right there, 512-433-9328. You can text me at any time if you have any questions, any health-related questions. Even if you're not a patient of mine, I'll do my best to help you as much as I can, because that's why I'm here, okay? So I do want to do my best as far as helping everybody. That's my personal email as well, drd.fhc@gmail.com. Feel free to email me questions if you have them at any time, and then that's our website on the bottom there. So let's go ahead and get started. This is what we're going to cover today. And as you can see, it's pretty complicated, right? If you look at the complexity of weight loss, this is everything that we know for the past 60 years that we have been studying weight loss. This is called the Obesity System Influence Diagram. It is everything from, it's basically a bunch of clusters that are grouped together. And when you talk about weight loss, there's individual psychology that is involved. There's social psychology. There's the individual activities that we do. There's the food consumption. There's also the product consumption, hormones, energy balance, sleep cycles, your personal genetics, right? So there's all these things that we really have to address if we want to talk about weight loss. And it's not, as you can see, if you look at this diagram, it's not as simple as saying, eat this, don't eat that, okay? And it's very complex when we talk about weight. And the reality is that each and every individual person has a very specific need or a reason why they've gained weight or why they're not able to lose weight. And to identify that is to truly correct the cause of your weight issues. And that's one of the biggest things that I've seen is that I can't just tell somebody to eat all organic food or to eliminate certain types of foods and they're going to get better. Now, there are there's certain rules that everybody can follow, that we all can agree for the most part, that will help to improve your current state of being. It'll give you more energy. It'll help you to lose weight. But then there are individuals where it's more complex than that, where we do have to look at certain labs, where we have to do certain testing, and we go from there. And I'm going to urge every single person on this call tonight, if you are not happy with where you are at, you contact me or you contact a local doctor and you start bringing up these issues, because don't just settle for the body that you have if you're not happy with it, because you can make changes. And that's I'll say, to sum everything up, that's the thing that I've seen this year, is that anybody can create changes. And it's not 100%, Okay, so I'm not here to tell you that we've got some magic sauce that every single person absolutely, changed their life. Everybody lost weight, but not everybody got to where they wanted to be, and that's because it's so complex. Now, the first thing that I learned, regardless of how bad things are, we rarely are willing to make changes to our lifestyle or behaviors unless something catastrophic or devastating happens. Even then, it's only temporary. And this is what I've seen, is that no matter how bad things are, and I can explain a certain situation to somebody, rarely is someone willing to make the changes that are required in order for them to get better, unless a catastrophe happens, unless you have a stroke, unless you have cancer. Today, you find out you have cancer, unless you have a heart attack, unless you are hurting so bad that you cannot stand up straight. That's what urges somebody to get care, and it's ridiculous. And that's something that we really need to move away against. And as a chiropractor, I get that quite a bit. But I'm going to tell you that is the biggest thing that holds people back, is that we wait till our house is burning and it's almost burnt before we want to do something about it. And I'm going to say don't do that, because if you're overweight right now, I guarantee you're sick. And there are problems that are going on in your physiology. And the longer that you allow that to go, it's just going to get worse and worse, and it makes it more difficult to reset everything. So we need to talk about the brutal facts, and I'm going to tell you facts here, not my opinion. This first paragraph here was taken from Circulation, which is a very good peer-reviewed journal, which publishes a lot of information about heart disease and some of these chronic degenerative diseases that we experience. The present obesity epidemic is both troubling and informative, because adiposity, basically overweight, is largely caused by poor diet. And the key word here is deficiency of nutrients, or the key words are deficiency of nutrients. And more inadequate physical activity, meaning that we have poor diet, we're not getting the right minerals in our body, we're not getting the right type of exercise. Therefore, emphasis on more downstream risk factors such as hypertension, high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, abnormal cholesterol, elevated triglycerides, these types of things, diabetes. To address these with a pill, to treat your blood pressure with blood pressure medication, or to treat your cholesterol with a statin, that does not make sense. You cannot drug your way to health. And most people, when they have high blood pressure, they go to the doctor, they get put on a pill, and they assume that that's going to be okay. And we know that obesity is a precursor to those things. So if you're going to treat the cause, you have to first go to that. If you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have elevated triglycerides right now, and you're on medication for that stuff right now, and you're overweight, you being overweight is part of the cause, and you need to address that, and you need to take a more active approach. That's basically what this article is saying. An abundance of evidence suggests that lifestyle factors, including exposure to chemical carcinogens, physical activity, and diet play major roles in the development of common cancers. So in other words, we know that the foods that we're putting in our body, the chemicals that we expose ourselves to, the laundry detergents that you have at home, the cleaning household cleaners that you use, even your dishwashing soap has compounds in there that we know cause cancer. And this needs to be addressed, and so many people are just unaware of this, and this contributes to a lot of our problems. It actually even contributes to obesity. They call them obesogens. They're compounds that literally interrupt your hormone pathways that help you to burn fat. And they believe, there's a lot of good theories out there saying that a lot of these toxic household compounds are actually making us fat. The current human diet contains a variety of mutagens and carcinogens that lead to the initiation of cancer and other chronic diseases. This was published in the Journal of Applied Physiology. What they're telling you here is that a lot of the food products that we eat, a lot of the products, if you're eating out, if you're going out and you're having any kind of restaurant food, there are 4 companies that supply all of our restaurants in the United States with food, Cisco being the main one. But these foods are not food, it's products, and they're loaded with carcinogens and mutagens, compounds that cause cancer, compounds that literally change your DNA, that again cause cancer. And it's important to understand that. Men with a body mass index of 28 or greater have a 52% higher death rate for cancer. Now, what's your body mass index? Your body mass index is a measurement that's easily calculated. And if you don't know what your body mass index is, then you need to go to your doctor and you need to get that calculated. It's just like knowing your blood pressure, just like knowing your cholesterol or your vitamin D levels. BMI is a measurement of health. And we know that if you have a BMI greater than 28, and if you're male, you have a 52% higher chance of getting cancer. If you're a female, that goes up to 62%. which is just amazing. And it's mind-boggling to me that most people don't know their BMI. Even scarier than that is that 92% of the population doesn't realize the link between obesity and cancer. And again, obesity is the symptom. So if you're overweight, okay, if you're carrying a couple of extra pounds and that's not normal weight for you, you're at risk for developing cancer. Basically, in a nutshell, more pounds equals more cancer. Now, the prevalence of overweight U.S. adults has increased dramatically during the past 30 years. We all know this. You see it in the news. The bigger issue is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes represents what is perhaps the most serious obesity-related consequence ever. And it is so expensive to address diabetes. People are on these drugs, spending hundreds of dollars every month. If you're doing dialysis, that's a couple of grand every month. And even if insurance pays for it, somebody is paying for it on the back end. And it's ridiculous where this is something that is easily corrected or taken care of through lifestyle modification, but we choose to just ignore it and treat it with medications. It's very expensive for us to continue doing this. Nearly 90% of individuals with type 2 diabetes are overweight. And again, weight being the precursor to your diabetes. This was published in Clinical Diabetes in 2008. Moving on, this is a scarier stat for me. And if any of you know me, you know that my wife and I do everything that we can, absolutely everything we can, to ensure that our kids, that our children have the best health possible. And it's for these reasons right here. This was published this year. If you look at the date down in the lower right-hand corner down here, January 9th, 2013, this was a report, U.S. Health and International Perspective, Shorter Lives, Poor Health. The number of American children with chronic illnesses has quadrupled 4 times since the time when some of their parents were kids. And this is no secret. You can look around. Look at the number of kids who are on ADD, ADHD medications. Look at the number of kids who are on antidepressants. Look at the number of kids who are now diabetic, who are getting put on blood pressure medications, which is just insane. And somehow our population is okay with this, and people aren't raising arms about it. And it's just mind-boggling to me. And yes, we can get angry about a lot of worldly events, but the fact of the matter is if we allow this to continue, where are we going to be 20 years from now when these people are actually supposed to be taking care of us and coming up with policies? That's something that worries me, actually. Most parents don't realize that infants, children, and adolescents in the U.S. die younger and have greater rates of illness and injury than youth in other countries. Brandon and I were actually just looking something up. We asked, okay, who's the healthiest country in the world in 2012, so last year? And the healthiest country was actually Spain. Out of 19 countries that were studied, and these were industrialized countries, these were countries that have access to all the health care that they need, that are more modernized, the United States ranked 17 out of 19. We're second to last, and we've been second to last for several years now, even though we spend more money on health care than ever before, which is just, that doesn't make sense. So obviously, again, we're not doing the right things. Now, we need to talk a little bit about downstream conditions. Like I was saying earlier, obesity is the precursor to a lot of these conditions. Someone who is overweight, and I'm not saying obese, just if you're overweight, you're twice as likely to die prematurely as a normal weight person. So when we look at obesity and you look at all the factors that are downstream, all the things that are related to that, the big ones would be sex hormone imbalances, which is basically your precursor to cancers, so your hormone-dependent tumors. Then you can look at increased free fatty acids, which is basically insulin resistance, high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, which is your type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And then you look at mechanical problems related to being overweight. Sleep apnea, not sleeping properly, which of course is going to affect your health. Osteoarthritis, gravity that's pulling your body down. You know, people already have bad posture because of how we work, and then you throw in an additional 10 pounds, it's going to add a lot of weight, which is going to cause degeneration. Literally, you're aging faster than what you should be. And, of course, that's going to cause back pain, right? And I'm going to tell you the most frustrating thing that I can take care of as a chiropractor is somebody comes in and they have abnormal physiology, meaning their body is not literally too heavy to support themselves. And so, of course, their tissues are going to be stressed and they're going to be hurting. And so these are all the things that could be related to obesity. Now, obesity is linked to several serious medical conditions, and that's that chart that I'm showing you. The first one is prescription medications, and I'm telling you that is a medical condition. If you're on prescription medications right now, you have a condition of taking medication. Like I said, you cannot drug yourself to health. It's impossible. You cannot take more medications and get healthy. It's just genetically and biochemically impossible. And so there's no solution there. Heart disease is another big one. Cancer, diabetes, gallbladder problems, osteoarthritis, back pain, breathing problems. Now, the interesting thing about heart disease and diabetes, I'm going to tell you this. For most people, the number one selling drug for people that have heart disease is actually a statin medication. And this is pretty interesting. 72% of people that are on statin medications get diabetes. And what they determined is that the actual drug, the compound, affects your sugar energy balance, your ability to metabolize, to where literally it develops diabetes. So if you have high cholesterol and you get put on a statin, 72% of you are actually going to develop diabetes. Now let's flip it. If you look at people that get diabetes, people that are on Avandia, like these diabetic medications, they've determined, and they actually have a black box warning label on them now, they determined that you're more likely to develop or to get a heart attack. I think it was 6 out of 10 people, so 60% of the time you're going to get a heart attack. So between those two conditions, it's like, if you get heart disease, you take a statin to treat it, but you're going to get diabetes. If you get diabetes, you're going to take the drug that's actually going to cause a heart attack, which just doesn't make sense, right, when you actually look at all these things together. If you are overweight, reducing your weight by 5 to 10% is proven to decrease your chance of developing disease by as much as 50%. So what I like to ask people is that if you're just carrying a couple of extra pounds, what's it worth to you to reduce your chances of developing disease by as much as 50%? And this is an important thing to understand, because a lot of times people bring up cost, people bring up time, people bring up commitment, but slashing 50% of disease, I guarantee you, when you get your cancer, you're going to have all the time in the world to want to change it. When you have a stroke, you're going to have all the money in the world to try to fix it. I guarantee you, because I've seen that happen. And it's unfortunate when it gets to that point, and that's what we don't want. And that's why I get so passionate about this, and that's why I'm excited about sharing this with everyone. So let's call it what it is. If you're fat, you're sick, okay? And that's pretty much what I'm talking about, is that being overweight, having an unhealthy body composition is a sign, it's a symptom that you are sick, just like elevated blood pressure. That is a sign, a symptom that things aren't working right. And it's important for us to understand that, and it's important for us to address it. Yes, I have a heart, and I feel bad if I look at somebody and they're overweight, and I tell them that they're overweight. Everybody feels uncomfortable. And I bring this up, and people don't like to go and say, hey, you're carrying a couple of extra pounds. That's rude, right? But this is a matter of life and death, and that's where I am operating right now, is when somebody comes in. I had a patient come in today. She had just been to an orthopedic surgeon. She was overweight, obviously overweight. Nobody brought that up to her. She had back pain. She had knee issues. She had ankle problems. She was swelling in both of her legs. She hurt like crazy, and nobody told her that she was overweight when it was pretty obvious. And I told her that, and she said, thank you for saying that I was overweight. And I ask you this, how many of your family members that you know suffer right now from problems? They don't feel good, they're depressed, they don't have energy like they should, and they're overweight, and nobody really brings it up, or nobody wants to address it. And that's the thing that kills me. And the second thing that I learned, gluten. Gluten this is like the worst thing ever introduced into our environment. Gluten, modern grains, white processed and bleached foods are the devil. I'm going to say that. Because that's one thing that I've learned. And if there's anything that you can eliminate right now, it would be sugar and gluten. Those two things. They obliterate your energy balance. They create hormone imbalances that lock you into weight gain and fatigue. And much like a drug addict, you need to recover. And I'm going to tell you this, it's serious. It's just like an alcoholic. If any of you have ever met an alcoholic or you have one in your family, you cannot have alcohol in the house. Because I don't care how strong-willed you are, you will want to go and take a sip of it. And that's pretty much what sugar is like, or bread, or pasta, or rice, or crackers. We bring these things into our home, the battle has been lost. And that's one of the hardest things. And we know today, through molecular research, that gluten as a protein, when it's broken down in your body, it causes inflammation. It causes your gut lining to be depleted, which means that you now have malabsorption problems. You cannot absorb nutrients even if you eat healthy foods. And let's say you ate gluten as a child and growing up as an adult. Unless you go through the proper protocols, even though you're eating healthy now, you will not be able to absorb those healthy foods. And that's an important thing to understand. And that's something that I can pick up on. Because I used to tell patients when they come in, oh, just eat this. and it didn't work for them. And the reason why is because we didn't heal them the right way. And that's another one of the things that I've picked up on through this program. So here I'm going to cut to the chase, okay? And again, you guys, everybody's going to get a copy of this. I'll email it to you, or you email me if you don't happen to get one. Again, we've got about 60 people on the call. So I name this a couple, and if I do, then just email me and I'll shoot it right back to you. But I'm going to convert this into a PDF so that way everybody gets this. This list right here, if you do everything on this list, you will be about 50% there. And I'm saying that 50%. You're about halfway there where you need to be in terms of getting your body back into a healthy state. And it begins with eliminating sugar. It begins with, and this includes fruit juices, sports drinks. So a lot of these things, we are very cautious and careful about giving our kiddos these things because they're just loaded with sugar. And I'll ask you, go into your fridge right now, and if you have any fruit juices, look at the amount of sugars that are in there, and you're going to see they're really high. These are just compounds or beverages that are just loaded with sugar that cause a lot of inflammation in your body that disrupt your energy balance as well. All flour-based products. And I'm going to tell you that from the top of this list here, that's the most important. Okay, so as we go down, the higher up you are, that's the most important. If you can make it all the way down to the bottom, then you're doing pretty good. The second one is start eating proper fats. Now, I will say this. If you are dream dropping, if you're doing a Dream Drops weight loss program, which is all about rebalancing your hormones, then you actually will not be consuming fats. And it's the only time that I'll ever say stay away from fats, at least healthy fats. But if you're not going to be on our Dream Drop program, I want you to start eating proper fats, animal fats, monosaturated fats like coconut oil. That's probably one of the healthiest oils that you can cook with. If you're consuming olive oil, you should not cook with that. I want you just to consume that raw, like if you're using it in the salad dressing or something like that. Switch from skim milk to half and half or whole full fat milk. Now, this is a big one. A lot of people, they think that, because fat's the enemy, right? So we don't want to drink full fat milk, so we're going to do skim milk. In order for it to taste good, so people actually like it and drink it, you will eliminate, what they do is they take out the fat in skim milk, but they add more sugars. So basically, you're just adding sugar, which just makes it one of the worst things that you can do. So instead of that, I would urge you to start purchasing whole, full-fat milk and make sure it's organic. Eliminate all grains. And if I didn't have the phone muted or if I didn't have this conference muted, everybody would probably be like, wah, wah, wah. Because grains, I like eating pizza. I like eating burgers. I like eating bread, pasta, rice, crackers. I like eating all that stuff. I'm going to admit that. But I know it's not good for my body, and I know that I can only do so much of it. Eliminating all grains will help to deflame your body because the biggest thing that grains does is it converts to sugar really fast, and it increases inflammatory markers in our body, which is the beginning of the disease process. You need to eliminate grain and seed-derived oils. So only cook with butter, coconut oil, or animal fats, like ghee. Get daily midday sun or take 5,000 to 10,000 units of vitamin D daily. I don't have a slide of this on here, but I've seen plenty of slides showing a direct causal relationship between taking vitamin D and improving your ability to burn fat. And in fact, they've even shown that the more deficient you are in vitamin D, the heavier you are. The more vitamin D you get, the more weight you're actually going to lose. And they've even shown this in children, where they found that children that are heavier or that are considered obese are severely deficient in vitamin D. And when the only change was to implement vitamin D supplementation, they started losing weight. And this goes back to the hormone issue. Vitamin D actually stimulates your parathyroid hormone, which then stimulates your thyroid-stimulating hormone, which helps you to burn fat. And again, that's a big issue. And weight loss is a hormone problem. It's not a calorie in, calorie out problem. I'm telling you that right now. Intermittent fasting and infrequent meals. This gets a lot of people because we've been brainwashed into thinking that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I'm going to tell you right now that I used to think that as well, but I've had more people lose weight in the last 9 months than ever before in any of my career by eliminating breakfast. I'll say that again. Eliminating breakfast has resulted in more weight loss than I have ever seen in my career as a chiropractor and professional nutritionist. And the reason why, if you just kind of take a step back and look at it, genetically, 30,000 years ago, we didn't have access to food when we got up in the morning. We actually had to earn our food. We had to go out and hunt and gather and work, and then we got a meal. And so in terms of our circadian rhythms and all the hormone processes and all the things that are happening in our body, it is part of our biological makeup to actually not have food until later on in the day. And this is something known as intermittent fasting, and you'll find that there's a lot of current literature that's coming out now proving that that's the best way to go. And so unless you're a bodybuilder or unless you're a marathon runner or training for an Ironman competition, you have no business eating 3 or 4 or 5 meals a day. You can have 2 meals, lunch and dinner, and then maybe a snack or two, and those snacks need to be nice, healthy snacks. Fruit is just a Snickers bar from a tree. And I get it. I've got a fruit bowl in my office, and that's much better than the Snickers bar that people are buying, literally a Snickers bar, right? And so I try to help people make these small little changes. But the reality is, if you want to lose weight, you need to be very, very careful with the fruit that you're putting in your body. You need to stick with berries. If that's, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, things like watermelon, which have pure fructose, that's like one of the worst things you can put in your body because fructose will get converted to fat much faster than regular sugars. And there's this big thing that, it's fructose, which is healthy sugar because it comes from fruit. To me, that's the same thing as like, high fructose corn syrup. It's as healthy as sugar. It comes from corn, and corn is healthy. That's just a hot mess. And so I'm going to tell you right now, pay no attention to that. Fructose will cause you to gain weight. That has been proven. There's a causal relationship, and if you look in the literature, you'll find that. So just eliminate as much fruit as you can. Eliminate legumes. This is not for everybody, but for the vast majority of the population, myself included, legumes are very harmful to our body's makeup. We were not designed to be eating a lot of legumes. It's just not part of our makeup. Eat grass-fed beef or bison. Okay, now what that does, when you eat grass-fed beef, you're not taking in a lot of omega-6 fats, which actually cause inflammation in our body. If the meat you're eating is not organic, if it's been fed grains or if it's been given hormones and all these other chemicals, it has too many omega-6 fats, and this has been proven again in the literature, which means it's going to cause a lot of inflammation. And that's the source of all of our diseases, this inflammation. We're all burning like crazy, and you need to calm things down. That's why omega-3s are very important. And when you eat organic meat, we know that it has a higher concentration of omega-3 fats, which are the healthy fats that you need in your body. So yes, you absolutely have to be eating grass-fed beef. Proper exercise. Now, you don't have to spend 45 minutes in the gym. I personally enjoy running 3 miles a few times a week. It's like meditation for me. That's completely different. I don't do that just for the sake of fitness. Okay, I have other forms of exercise that I do. And the best type of exercise that you can do for your body is going to be interval training or burst training, which basically is 5 to 10 minutes of high intensity, as hard and fast as you can go. You do jumping jacks, you do push-ups, do a jump rope for 5 minutes. That's the best workout that you're going to have all day. Again, and anybody can go to the store, get a jump rope, and jump rope for 5 minutes. I know that you have enough time to do that. And that's pretty much all you have to do. And you know what? You don't even have to do it every day. You can do it every 2 or 3 days. Eliminate milk. Now, if we get further down to the bottom of the list, and you're strong enough to actually make it to number 12, then yes, eliminating milk altogether is going to be one of the best things that you can do for your body. Especially if you're sensitive to it, then you probably need to move that up to number 1. Number 13 is eliminate other dairy, including cheese. And I know that's a hard one for everybody. The next slide here, I want to talk a little bit about how did we get so fat so fast? Like, how did this happen? Well, most people, maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't, but I want to go over it. In 1990, if you look here, we ranged between 10 to 15%, 19% obesity, rates around the United States. 10 years later, look how fast it happened. We jumped up to 24%. 10 years later, so 30 years, into it, 20, 30 years into it, we're up to greater than 30% obesity rates. So the question is how did this happen? What happened actually? What changed it all? And to understand this, we have to look into a couple of things. Not all calories are equal, Calorie is not a calorie. And everybody's seen this food chart, and it's important to know the history behind this. In 1977, there was legislation that was put into place where they said that meats were the enemy, fats were the enemy, and that we need to be consuming more breads, more cereals, more rice. The reality is it's economics. It's much less expensive to produce those types of foods than your meats and your fats. And the reality is that there was a lot of subsidization in corn. There was a lot of subsidization and hybridization practices that started to occur where a lot of people were making a lot of money in agricultural practices. And it's just lobbying. And the food pyramid was adopted wholeheartedly in 1992, and it's been that way until I think it was last year or 2 years ago now, where they finally said, okay, this is not working, and they changed it. But look at what you see at the foundation here. 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereal, rice, pasta. This was the majority of the food we should be eating, and then fats should have been the least amount of foods. Now, when we move on, did it work? Well, again, in 1977, they passed legislation, right? They said, the U.S. government said, this is what you should be doing. Eat less fat and cholesterol. Eat more carbohydrates. So look what happened. From 1977 on, what happened to obesity rates? They skyrocketed. So obviously that didn't work, okay? Decreasing fats and meats and increasing grains was one of the worst things that we could have done to our population, and pretty much it messed everyone up. And me growing up, I have to work really hard right now at my metabolism to keep it where it is because I grew up that way, and that's just not right. Now, here's another thing to understand is that food today has been Frankensteined. On to the left, you'll see that that's ancient corn, okay? So this was maize that was grown back in the day, and look at the type of corn that you see here, okay? This is ancient corn. This is corn back in the day, 10,000 years ago. It's called teosint or teosinte. Now, what they did is they took these crops and they tried to hybridize them, and they mixed them up with different types of corn, and eventually you got this huge modern corn that we have. Now, the important thing to understand is that when you eat that, it has completely different biological properties inside your body when we're talking about the modern corn that we see here compared to the ancient corn that you see there. Now, to kind of put that into perspective, look at the size. Look at this quarter here, the size of a quarter, and look at the size of the plant. Eating that and making corn meal out of that compared to something like this, there's just no question that the grains that we eat today are completely different. And now let's talk a little bit about even sprouted grains, right? A lot of people are saying, like, oh, but I do sprouted grains. Well, I guarantee you that the ancient corns that you see here, like the wild einkorn or the wild goat grass, all these have been mixed and hybridized and cultivated such that we get these monster frankenbreads that, again, just spike your insulin levels, cause inflammation in your body. So you have to realize that even eating whole bread, whole grains, the healthiest grain that you can have, it's still not normal because it's not the same that your primitive ancestors ate. And so it has a completely different makeup inside your body. Now, we need to talk a little bit about insulin. Insulin is a hormone that literally puts you into fat storage. So here we have a chart where you look at blood sugar. If you were to eat some cereal this morning, you eat cereal and even Total K or Cheerios, it has no sugar, right? That's what everybody says. But if it has grains and it has sugar, you eat that stuff, or you have a sandwich, you have a piece of toast, it's going to spike up your blood sugar. It goes up really high, and that results in a massive insulin release. You get all this insulin that comes out. And insulin, anytime you have insulin in your body, you turn yourself into a fat storage. Basically, you put yourself in a fat storage mode. So that insulin then is going to take that sugar, convert it to fat. Sugar starts to plummet. Then you get hungry. Okay, and then that cycle is going to happen again. So basically what people are doing is they release this energy quickly, then they feel hungry again, and they eat more, and you get caught into this vicious cycle. And that's the problem with a lot of people is that you're stuck in this process of eating these grains and these breads, and because it's just almost like an addict. You got to have it so you can get your energy. As opposed to something like this where if you're eating lots of fats or lots of meat, you don't spike that insulin, which means that you're not going to be converting stuff to fat directly, which means that you're not going to get hungry as fast. And your energy is going to be sustained, and you're not going to cause inflammation. And that's the most important thing to understand. And in order to do that, you probably have to do about 3 months of practicing this type of diet before you can truly reset your metabolism. Basically, insulin rises when you digest carbs and grains. So things like breads, pastas, rice, sugar, fructose, the fruit sugars, right? The apple juice, the cranberry juice that you get. That causes a spike in insulin. Insulin takes those carbs and grains and converts it to body fat, and then it ends up on your thighs or on your buttocks or under your arms. What you should be focused on is eating foods that do not spike your insulin, because when insulin is not present or available, because you're eating low carbohydrates or a low sugar diet, Then what you do is burn your body fat for energy. And that's what's called a fat burner as opposed to a sugar burner. And that's what we're talking about here. Now here's another slide showing you when we eat wheat, we get fat. And you can see, look at the orange lines that you see here, okay, or it says these dark orange lines. This is wheat consumption in terms of pounds. And since 1977, look what happened. It skyrocketed. Now, what happened to obesity? Look at the percent obesity. It goes along with it. The more wheat we eat, the fatter that we get, and that's something that's important to understand. Now look at meat consumption, and let's go to 1977, whenever they told us that meat was bad. You'll see that actually beef started plummeting. So we did. We listened to them. We said, okay, no meat. We're going to decrease our meat consumption. Pork stayed the same. Turkey went up a little bit. And if you look at broilers, which is pretty much patties, which is like synthetic meat, it's where they take all the bits of meat and they put it together to create meat, that actually went up. But my point is that as we got fatter, we decreased our meat. And that doesn't make sense because you need that. That's actually what we were developed from. The third thing that I learned is that high-quality nutritional supplementation is essential for every American. And you know what? Everybody on this planet, high-quality nutritional supplementation is essential. It's nearly impossible to get adequate nutrition eating good food. And I'm going to tell you that I was taught that in chiropractic school, and for the longest time I believed that. And when patients would come in, I'd say, all I want you to do is eat healthy. Don't worry so much about nutrition or supplements, just eat healthy. And I'm here to tell you that that's just not true. And I admit that I was wrong. And I told so many hundreds of patients that, and it's wrong. It's just impossible to get the amount of nutrition you need. Here's a chart showing you that in 1914, if you look off to the left, what they did is they took an average mineral content of selected vegetables. In this case, they were looking at cabbage, lettuce, tomatoes, and spinach. And they looked at the average minerals, trace minerals, essential for metabolism. And they found that in 1914, look, it was at 400. And then as time went on, you can see where it plummeted. This is because of our agricultural practices and because we've damaged our soil so much that even our foods, our whole foods, don't have the minerals that they had back in the day. And here's the other thing, is that as minerals go down, diseases go up. So as time has gone on, we've lost more minerals in our supply, and humans do not have the amount of minerals they need. We're severely deficient. So have our diseases gone up. And they see this relationship here. And this is an important concept to understand. It's something that I was not taught in school, but I've recently become aware of, is that we are massively mineral deficient. From the muscle twitches and the muscle spasms and the brain fog and brain fatigue and heavy weight and even blood pressure, cholesterol problems, all these things come down to mineral deficiencies. And we know this. Nobel Prize winners admit this. And this is a big problem. And most people are deficient in minerals, but you do not become symptomatic, right, until later. And once you become symptomatic, you start popping a pill, a drug, like if that's going to save the day. To put things into perspective, in 1914, one apple supplied the same iron nutrition as 26 apples in 1997. So basically, an apple a day? No, it's more like 26 apples today will be equivalent to one in 1914, which is just amazing. Deficiencies in our diets. So, don't even get me started on the RDA. The RDA is severely low. So with the recommended dietary allowance of certain vitamins, it is extremely low. In other words, you should be taking 5,000 units of vitamin D every day. They used to say that you only have to do 400. So obviously, that's a big loss. There's a big mistake. But here you can see that, like calcium, 73% of individuals are deficient in calcium. That's 3 out of 4 people, right? 75% in folate. Look at magnesium, 68%. Look at vitamin E, 86%. Almost every person you meet, 8 out of 10 people is going to be deficient in vitamin E. And the question is, what kinds of diseases and dysfunctions that cause? And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of them. There are a lot of conditions associated with this, cancer being one of them. Another important thing to understand is that plant minerals absorb better. When your vitamins and your nutrition come from plants, from whole foods, you cannot go to Costco, Vitamin Shop, Walmart, GNC, Walgreens, and purchase a vitamin. I guarantee you those are not plant-based minerals. Those are not plant-based vitamins. And they've done studies on the uptake, your ability to absorb these compounds. If you take a tablet versus a whole food multivitamin, you're absorbing nowhere close to the amount that you need to. And so you're not going to achieve the results that you want if you're doing that. So how do we get so fat so fast? We increased grain consumption. That's number one. We increased sugar consumption, and mainly high fructose corn syrup, which came in the 90s. We decreased total fat consumption, and we became mineral deficient. That together created the perfect storm for this obesity epidemic that we're now in. And so now we have to address that by decreasing grain consumption or eliminating it, decreasing sugar, increasing our fat and beef consumption, protein. You need protein, I'm telling you that right now, but it needs to be healthy protein. And then you need to increase your minerals, which is really the biggest issue behind weight loss that I have been observant of in my office. And that's why I recommend Vima. And I'm going to tell you that for the longest time I didn't recommend multivitamin. I wasn't as hard-pressed about it. This is not simply a multivitamin. Vima is clinically proven. They have 3 different clinical studies that have been proven to lower C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation, to lower triglycerides, to lower cholesterol, and insulin resistance. Now, again, it's not just a vitamin, and that's the reason why Vima is so powerful. And I want to talk a little bit about inflammation. Most people don't realize this, but high cholesterol or cholesterol itself, the molecule cholesterol, is an anti-inflammatory. So if you have a person who has really high cholesterol, the body is saying, oh, wow, we're so inflamed. We've got to create more cholesterol because it's anti-inflammatory. So you going and taking a pill to lower that cholesterol isn't going to fix it. What you have to fix is the inflammation. And the cool thing is that there are nutritional supplements that can do that, and Vima is just one, of many. But Vima stands for vitamins, essential minerals, which is 92% of your metabolism, mangosteen, which provides a lot of antioxidants, which helps to slow down the aging process, and then aloe. And any naturopathic doctor, any natural medicine doctor will tell you that your digestive system is extremely important when talking about getting you healthy. And aloe is one of those compounds that is very healthy for getting your digestive system on track. Vima, the essential minerals are 65 plant-based minerals. These are trace minerals that they put in there. And they recognize that we have these deficiencies. Vima was actually, the reason why they created it was actually to address a lot of third world hunger problems, because these kids don't have food, but they can provide them with adequate nutrition. And this is a good delivery system. It's 95% absorbable within 2 hours. And so that's why it's such a cool product, and that's why you see the results that it gives. Now, the other thing is that to burn fat, you need to have this stuff. To burn fat, you need to have vitamins, essential minerals. Your body has to have antioxidants because of all the processes that are occurring in your liver. You have to have a strong gut, so intestinal health. And then I'm going to add 2 others. You have to have the right types of fats in your body. There are compounds in fats that actually help you to burn fat. And then you need to have vitamin D. So for any of you out there, if you're looking at the nutrition that you need to be taking on a daily basis, it needs to be something like Vima, or the equivalent of. It needs to be a good, healthy fish oil and vitamin D. That is extremely important in order to address your weight issues. Because if you don't provide for that, then you're not providing for the minimum chemistry that your body needs in order to function properly. So here it is. This is my opinion, okay, and I'm telling you, this is my opinion, that our modern lifestyle, food and environmental toxins, stress, poor gut health, infections that we get from hospitals or infections that we get because we're so immunocompromised, micronutrient deficiencies, sleep deprivation, all of this interferes with hormone regulation, dopamine signaling, which is your feel-good hormones, leptin and insulin, which are hormones that help you to burn fat. All this happens that really creates this whole epidemic of obesity. And the reality is that we no longer eat real food like you see there. That's the main issue, that 2 or 3 times out of the week you're eating out. You're going and you're eating food products. Instead of that, you're eating this, right? And you can go and look in your fridge and you can look at the stuff that you buy, and many of you may have this. Or if you eat out, again, you're eating this, and that's your grocery store. Or even if you do go to the grocery store, you're loaded with all kinds of products that are just horrible. And the reality is that we need to be eating more of that. The problem is that even when you eat this whole food, because we know that these foods are so deficient in minerals, you still may not be getting what you need. And that's why you have to add in additional supplements and enhancers to get yourself where you want to be. And so that's really the big issue, is that I've seen that unless we add in those missing cofactors, you're not going to unlock your body. And some people are more deficient than others. Some people we have to actually add more supplements in order to trick their biochemistry into working right. Let's talk a little bit about body composition. Some of you, health comes in all shapes and sizes. Some of us are bigger, some of us are smaller. Some of you want to look like Jennifer Aniston, and I'm going to tell you right now that you will never look like her. no matter what. And I don't mean that to be mean, but the sooner that you can accept that in your head and that you can accept your body type as a healthy body type, as long as you're doing healthy things, well, then that's health, okay? Because God made all different types of sizes and shapes, and it's important to understand that. And part of that is your genetics, and you have no control over that, okay? So part of that is your genetics. Now, part of our body composition also comes from environment, and this is from the type of home environment that we have. What's your house set up like? What types of chemicals and compounds and how clean are you? Who are the people that are living in your house? Is your spouse on board with you in terms of some of the changes that need to happen? Who are the people that, at work, your work environment? What types of foods are coming there, right? The people that you surround yourself with. You have control over that, and it does have an effect on your body. Then let's talk about lifestyle. These are the day-to-day choices. These are your sleeping patterns, the types of foods you choose to eat or not eat, the types of behaviors that you do, how you choose to talk to yourself. And what I'm trying to get at is that it takes all three of these things to create your body composition. And right here in the middle is the result. So even though maybe some of us are not gifted genetically to have six-pack abs and to look like Jennifer Aniston, 2/3 of the way you have choice. And that's my point here, is that you still have ultimate control in terms of some of the things that you can get at. Yes, some of you may have to work harder to get the same results. You do that because you know that that's what we need to do to be well. Chronic hormone imbalance. Excess body fat is a symptom of chronic hormone imbalance. Hormones and enzymes regulate fat storage. I'm telling you that right now, that that big diagram I showed you, that complex diagram, it all comes down to hormones. These signaling pathways that help to change our body for the better or for the worse. You must regain hormone balance through specific lifestyle changes and choices that directly impact hormone balance if you ever wish to conquer your weight health issues. So I'm telling you that if you want to improve your metabolism and lose weight, you have to get your hormones in check. And some women, because of the damage that has happened to them, whether it's hysterectomy or it's thyroid issues or it's medications that you've been put on or different types of medical procedures, yeah, it's very tough because you already have had intervention and some of those things have damaged your body. And so now we have to work a little harder. But that means that we have to get down to the nitty-gritty and figure out what do we need to do for you in order to get you to the body that you need to be. So how do you do that? How do you regain control? One is address your food quality. Low-calorie, high-nutrient foods. Kale is a perfect example. Kale is low-calorie, high-nutrient, loaded with nutrients. Compare that to oatmeal, which is high-calorie, very low or little to non-nutrients. Breads, high calories, no nutrients. So you need to eliminate those foods. You need to address food quantity, and I'm going to tell you that approximately 1,000 to 1,500 calories have been shown to be the best amount of calories that we can take daily to improve our body composition. We need to address food rhythms, the timing, when you actually eat food. I've learned that has a lot to do with it, our circadian rhythms, our biological clocks. And all these things are addressed because of the Dream Drops program, and that's why it's been so successful, because it gives you an easy-to-follow program, okay, in terms of doing it. You need to address sleep patterns. Basically, no sleep, more fat. The less you sleep, the more fat you're going to get because of these hormone imbalances. We need to check activity levels. Now, the cool thing about Dream Drops is that you don't have to work out. People lose weight, and I've had more people lose weight not working out, again, than ever before, and that's because we're fixing the problem. It's not a matter of working out more. It's a matter of fixing your metabolism. Your body was designed to be fit, and if you can get your body back to where it needs to be, well, there you go. Finally, we have to look at checking your social status, literally the people around you that could be creating part of this problem, the people that you meet with, the people that bring foods to your work, that type of thing, the husbands that are not supportive or the wives that are not supportive, that type of thing. What Dream Drops do, in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you this. Dream Drops help to improve leptin sensitivity. Leptin is a hormone that tells your brain to burn fat and that you're full, that you're not hungry anymore. So leptin, basically what it does, functions to turn off appetite while promoting the burning of triglycerides, free fats in your bloodstream that bloat your fat cells. So what happens is that because we've eaten these foods that are harmful to us, they've damaged our leptin, and your fat cells continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they accumulate as we get older. This then causes inflammation to rise up. C-reactive protein, which is a measurement of inflammation, is released. It binds to your leptin, and it creates basically a cycle. Dream Drops acts by taking your leptin through the blood-brain barrier and literally helping people to not be as hungry, but more importantly, to allow those fat cells to shrink. That's what Dream Drops do, and this formula was designed to do just that, and that's why we get so many people, even people who don't lose a lot of weight, they lose inches. And unfortunately, I have a lot of people who don't come to my office, so we can't do all the biometrics. But it's pretty interesting if you were to look at all the numbers that I've got of people that have come into our office, and we do their pre-post measurements and their pre-post body composition, where we look at muscle mass and fat mass and all these things, we see the loss of not just weight but fat, and then more importantly, deadly fat. That's what Dream Drops does. Now, the other part of the program is that we add a 7-day cleanse. Now, each of these bottles of cleanse have the VIMA formula, which are the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, and the aloe. So it has that formula in there, but it also has 10 grams of fiber that is designed to improve the intestinal lining, so that way you actually start absorbing nutrients. And then it has a list of other things that are there to aid your liver in terms of preparing you to break down fat. So basically, you'll do this for 7 days at the start of the program. Then there's a compound or a drink that we give to people, because basically through the Dream Drop program, you don't have breakfast, and instead you're going to be drinking something called Burn, and that's what you see right here on the screen. Again, the Burns have the VIMA formula. It has the antioxidants, which have those xanthones, which are very powerful antioxidants. The cool thing about Burn is it has 20 grams of protein, and this is what you start your day off with, 20 grams of protein, which I'm telling you, even people who have breakfast, every person in this country, rarely do people get 20 grams of protein into their diet at the start of the day. This is a low-caloric drink, lots of protein. It's got 7 grams of fiber as well, so it's very healthy. It's loaded with all kinds of compounds like L-theanine, which helps you to enhance mental alertness. It has 100 milligrams of natural caffeine in this compound called EGCG, which basically fires up your energy levels. And when people drink this stuff, they feel like they have energy. And that's one of the problems is when people are wanting to lose weight, they get on a program and they have low energy. This actually gives you the energy you need in order to keep moving forward. CLA, which is actually a compound that's in real fat, okay, healthy butters, CLA is necessary to maintain muscle mass. I had a female that came in today. We measured her muscle mass. I think she's like 2 weeks into the program. Within 1 week, this was within 2 weeks, she gained 4 pounds of muscle. Crazy, not even exercising, and it's because of these compounds that we're putting into the body. And then resveratrol, which a lot of people are familiar with resveratrol. This is a very good compound, has anti-aging properties, helps to improve efficiency of bodily processes. Now, after you do the Dream Drops program, there's this pretty cool system called carb cycling. And pretty much all the products, whenever people purchase a body program, which is sold by a company called Bima, which is separate from Dream Drops, but we combine them, after that you get put on a maintenance plan. And the maintenance plan is pretty much what's called carb cycling. And as you can see here, the first week that you're on it, day 1 and day 2 are low-carb days. Day 3 is a high-carb day. Day 4 and 5 is a low-carb day, a high-carb day, and then a guilt-free day. So I'm going to say this, that as far as maintaining the diet and sticking with it, there is nothing that could be easier than this. And if you just plug into this system and you use it and you follow it, you will maintain your weight loss. And I'm going to tell you that when I look at the numbers of people that we've tracked here in our office, it's close to 80% of the people since October have maintained their weight loss. And these are all of the individuals that we've been tracking as they've been coming into our office, which is pretty good numbers. You'll see that the 4th week there is all high-carb week and then a guilt-free day as well. The other cool thing about Bima is that you get this app, which basically you can install this on your smartphone or you can access it via the web. And if you shouldn't be eating at fast food places, but if you were to go, say, to like you see here, Chick-fil-A or Chipotle, based on that day's meal plan, it'll tell you the best foods that you could eat at that particular restaurant. So it's got all kinds of neat features and things. It prepares your meal plans for you. You can print your recipes. You can enter your weight, and it tracks your goals and all types of things like that. So pretty interesting program. And here's a snapshot of what it looks like if you were to access it via the web. Again, it designs your whole week's worth of foods that you should be eating. And this is the maintenance phase. Now, prior to that, I actually have a program that we created that we give to people, and that's what they follow. And that's pretty much what this program is here. So there's 2 systems that we offer in terms of our weight loss. The first system is, again, it's very easy to follow. The basic diet is 1,000 to 1,500 calories. It's not a starvation diet. So your goal is to eat as much of the approved foods as possible. There's no fats. no grains on this program. You're eating lean proteins, vegetables. You can have some fruits. There's no exercise. Now, this is for the Dream Drops and the Body Plan. Okay, so when we take Dream Drops, which is one company, and we combine it with the VIMA Body Program, where basically in the morning you get up, you're going to take your burns, you're going to take your drops. A couple of hours later, you're going to have a piece of fruit or some protein, maybe some chicken or turkey, or you can have some vegetables. Same thing for lunch. And then for the afternoon, you're going to have another burn as a snack. So what you can see here is you're getting a lot of protein. It's low calorie. You're getting all the minerals you need. And then the drops help to improve your leptin sensitivity, which is that hormone that helps you to burn fat. That together, all this combined, is why we've gotten the results that we've gotten. Now, this is the Dream Drops and Body Plan. I do have some people that have chosen to just do body, and that's certainly something that you can do. If you have a problem with weight loss, and if you tried all kinds of diets and you try to change your diet and eat healthy and exercise and you can't lose weight, I'm going to tell you, you absolutely have to do Dream Drops because you have to fix your body's biochemistry. Now, if you just want to lose a couple of pounds and you want to feel good and get into a better diet, then just do the body plan by itself. And it's basically the same thing minus the Dream Drops. Now, people ask me costs. The program runs $508. That's the Dream Drops Body Plan. When I first started, it was actually a lot lower, and I'm going to admit that we lost money when I offered this, and I actually got in trouble by the developers of Dream Drops. The company got mad at me because of the price that I put it at. But I wanted to prove that this system worked, and so I tried to give every reason possible, everybody enough of a reason to do it. And we had people do it, and of course we've had all the success. This is the bottom price that I can actually set it at. So your investment is $508. There are doctors around the country that are charging $1,400 for this program. I will even split that fee up into two payments of $275 for you in order to do this. Now, if you just want to do the body system, then it's $198. And I'm going to tell you that it's well worth it, especially when you look at the changes that can happen inside your body. Finally, the fourth thing that I've learned, and this is important, nutrition and weight loss problems are not simply a biological, biochemical, genetic, or hormone issue. All right? I used to think that. I used to think that it's a genetic problem. It's a systems problem. I studied network biology and systems biology and neurology. And he said, there's got to be something there. It's a problem with a person. It's actually a social problem. This is something much bigger and much greater than just the individual because we're pretty much set up for failure. And if you were to look at our kids, how are we teaching them how to eat? What are the messages that we're sending to them? What are the public policies that we put into place that allow for the foods that are our food supply right now? And when you start to look at these things, you realize that it's not our fault as an individual, but it's a social problem at large. So much that heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, even spine care needs to be addressed at a community social level, that it has to happen within your households because you can't just have one person eating healthy and that's it. It kills me when I see that an adult wants to eat healthy, but they allow their kids to just eat a bunch of garbage because what is that doing? And it hits close to home because every single one of my children is healthy. They do not get sick, and that didn't come with ease. We worked super hard at trying to do all of this, but it happened as a community, right, as my family, which is a community level. And this is the most important thing that anybody could ever understand is if you want to get healthy, you have to have a strong foundation of community. And if any of you know Family Health Chiropractic, our goal is to try to help people feel connected. Our goal is to try to help people feel loved because I don't know who has that and who doesn't have it. And I know that regardless of whatever I say, you cannot be healthy unless you feel connected because we are all part of this journey. And this is the way God designed it to be, is that we fellowship and community and sharing. And when as a whole, we've decided to allow certain types of food, we've allowed McDonald's to actually be a staple of our food supply, and that causes so much damage and dysfunction. It's ridiculous, and how are we okay with that? And I had to go through it. I had to fight my mother and fight family members saying, yes, they cannot have ice cream. Yes, my kids cannot have that food. Yes, my kids will not watch that show. And that's not easy. We get ridiculed and we get all kinds of, and I'm sure people laugh about us and they say, oh, those people are weird, but they're healthy. And this is the most important thing to understand is that we really need to group together and not allow this stuff to continue. because we're just literally creating devastation over and over and over again. And not until we decide to nip this in the bud and say, okay, I'm not going to allow the next generation to do this, that's really where the cure is. And the cure to obesity is actually changing our behaviors right from when we're young. And unfortunately, as adults, we don't have that opportunity. It's much harder for us. We're now addicted to a lot of these foods. We're now addicted to a lot of the sugars. Our brains, hormonally, we're addicted to certain types of compounds, and it makes it very difficult for us to it's like an alcoholic is never cured. The same thing with our foods. You are never cured. And if you get on a diet to get off of it, you are not cured. If you want to change your life and you want to lose weight and you want to keep it off, you have to maintain. You have to stay away from alcohol, right? Just like an alcoholic has to stay away from alcohol, we have to stay away from the same foods that got us there. And there's no beating around the bush, and I'm here to tell you the truth, and that is it. You need to stay away. And that's the only truth there is. And the most important thing to understand is that we are sick, we are unhealthy, and we've got big problems, but they're bigger than just ourselves. And I urge you to share this with your friends and your family members. So that's pretty much all I got. I'm going to show this, actually. I was talking to a friend of mine. He went to, this was in 2010. He went to Haiti, right? So that's where they had like the big, they had a catastrophe over in Haiti. And he's a medical doctor. And he went to Haiti and he said, what is the most important disease that I need to be addressing at this hospital? And you would think that it would be something like malaria or tuberculosis or AIDS or something like that. It was actually diabetes. So even in other countries, in third world countries or in countries where they don't have as much as we do, they have these problems. And this is interesting because if you look around the world, this is a chart showing you obesity rates, and off and to the left here you see in 2002, and off and to the right you see in 2010, China went from 28% to 45%. They increased, right? Look at the U.S. We went from 72 to 81%. Brazil, 43 to 54%. So this is not just a U.S. problem. That's what I mean by this is a social problem. This is everywhere. And we need to really start looking at the things, the decisions that you make tonight on the foods that you put into your mouth. When you go to the grocery store, the battle is won at the cash register. When you go to the restaurant, the battle is won when you make that order. You decide what you're teaching everybody around you, what is okay to eat or what is not okay to eat. And we need more people to say, no, I'm not going to do this. And that's really the biggest thing that I've learned throughout this whole process is that we need more of that. We need more people to be less sick and to make the right decisions. And it's not easy. I get that. I get that it's not easy. So that's pretty much all I got for you. I hope that I gave everybody something that they were looking for. There's a lot of information that you need to digest. Feel free to email me at email.shc@gmail.com. You can also visit dreamjobsdoctor.com, and there's more information that you can gather there. If any of you are interested in any of the products, or if you want me to help you find a product that's local to you that you'd be happy with, I'd be happy to do that. Again, I look forward to doing these webinars. I'm going to start holding them regularly. If there are specific topics that anybody wants to hear about or information that you want or you just absolutely crave or you'd like to learn more about, please send me an email. Okay, send me an email or shoot me a text or contact our office, and I'd be happy to put something together. Let's do this. Let's build something big, and let's share it with as many people as we can because we need more people to be getting the information that we shared with you tonight. So you guys have a great evening. God bless. I do love every one of you, especially for the patients. For those of you that come into my office, you know that. You know that I'm here with you and I'm here to help as much as I can. I appreciate your time. Have a good night.